was wrong. I was wrong. What was I wrong about? Well, let me show you. This is kind of a response to my Pacificator video, where I explained that Pacificator is cool because you get to have tank and damage. Usually ships only do tank or damage, but this ship looked like it was pretty good at both. That's wrong. I didn't understand why, and so this video is addressing why Mycenae, in theory, practically, is worse. Any ship that does dual function is indeed worse than the ship that does one function, for one simple reason. Nazi. This is why that any tank ship that tries to also do damage while sacrificing being tank is not worth it. Because here's my point is this, and actually I have a little spreadsheet. I was wrong. So roles and specialization. In this game, you need tank ships in the front and damage ships typically in the back. That's a brief overview and a summary. Of course, they're different builds that do different things, but that's the premise. So specialization is the idea that something does one job very well. So you could say that if we have attack on one side and tank on the other, specialization is doing one of those extremely well, made to do that. Now, here's the reason why my thoughts were, go back to my little sheet here. So what I meant, so like, the argument is that Mycenae can do both pretty well. And so the idea is that Mycenae can do 80% just as good as damage and 8% just as good as a tank, which is overall 160% rather than, let's say, 100% when it comes to tank and 10% damage, right? So compared to each ship, yeah, like compare Mycenae to a Pacificator or something other than Caedith, or your regular tank ships. Mycenae is better because it does a lot more damage than those other ships. That's the problem, though. That is wrong. That's not big enough towards this game. Yeah, it's better because you can compare damage to tanking to like the Pacificator, right? You think on paper, this is pretty darn tanky, and this is like a lot more damage if you build it right. You think Mycenae is a better ship, but it's not, because you can't use the ship. That goes kind of back to roles and specialization. In this game, you have to pick one or the other, and in the end, Mycenae has absolutely no candle to an Anansi. There's no point to use it in place of anything else except for Anansi, newbies, or some other extremely specialized damage ship. You would never use it for there. And in the same vein, you would never use Mycenae in a tank ship unless you had something no. Compared to a Max Caedith, a Pacificator, Ares, something like that. I mean, it's a fine tank ship, but that's the example. It's not better because it can kind of do both. In this game, kind of doing both, that margin is so small. It's not worth it. I mean, again, I was talking about my Pacificator because it has, if we play for this module, I can get like, an extra 14,000 accuracy damage, which is around like times 3 is like 56,000 DPS with that same accuracy. 56,000 DPS though, another 40 is nothing compared to the 145,000 plus maybe, I don't know. It's probably more like 250 in battle, maybe 3, probably even more than that, 350 in battle per second. There's just no comparison. That is a percentage point. The damage I'm gaining, saying that this is better. That's a percentage point compared to the actual damage that my fleet does. And that's why specialization is way more important than any of the damage you think you're doing, or the tanking that you're doing. So, right, on paper, compared to other ships, Mycenae has got the best of both worlds. However, in a game where we have Anansis that make any damage you think you can with this irrelevant, you need to use it as a tank ship. And compared to other tank ships, this is not the best tank ship. As simple as that. That's the argument laid out. And so that is why when you have longtime players such as Eon and Kobos, I don't think Kobos, but other players that explain this, and we go back and forth. I was listening, and I didn't understand it. I had to sit down and really like sit down and understand what they meant. But like again, that's the point. There's no reason to keep Mycenae. The damage and gain of a Mycenae as a tank ship is negligent at best compared to the amount of damage you get with a Newbies or an Anansi. Even Athena with its penetration or anything else. It's just not even. It's just not. It means nothing. So if the damage you gain by having it means nothing, then all that's left is the tank roll, right? Again, so again, if we have 60-60 or 70-70 on the Mycenae, but 70%, which is really like probably 20 or 10% compared to an Anansi, is irrelevant, then all you're left with is the other 60 or 70% of a tank ship compared to other tank ships that are 100%, 110%. So I was wrong. I said Pacific Hitter was a good ship because it can kind of do both. That's true in like isolation. In the game, this build is basically wrong. I think I'm gaining damage by having this here. I am not. This skill is still useless because there's no reason to have it. They can buff it as high as you want, but unless it gets close to an Anansi or maybe even half of an Anansi, which this thing is insane. I mean, just this special module by itself. This by itself is ridiculously high amounts of damage. So there's no way this even comes close to actually impacting your actual game performance, especially because again, it is a drawback. Like I can either build for this or I can double my armor. So might as well double my armor then. Right? Even then, like even if you can make it work, you're sacrificing the tank part of it. And again, this is not a better damage ship than Anansi outright anyway. So it's just saying, even if you were to improve it, even if you specialized a dual ship to damage, you sacrifice it being a tank. There's no point in making it be a damage ship because it's not, first off, and two, because again, you have a Nazi that's just, it's not close, right? If you're going to use this for a damage ship, why have it here? You put it here. But there's a reason to put it here because it's not even close. Even if it was half, it's not even close compared to this. It's just not better. So therefore, it's better to specialize it as a tank. See, doing both, that's the idea. Doing both isn't worth it because then you have to do, it's either here or here. It has to do one of the jobs really well. So 60, 60, 70, 70, yeah, it's 140%. Yeah, it's 180%. But if there's something that's supposed better in the slot, you got to pick the slot. And that is the mathematical, strategic right thing to do. So, to recap, I was wrong. These are the examples, right? Because it's not worth, just look at the damage of this thing and the accuracy. Look at the damage of my Max Anansi and the accuracy. Plus this. It's not close. Not even kind of close. I haven't even maxed this out yet. But even then, that'd be 80,000. It's just not close because you wouldn't use it for both. Now, Mycenae does work as a tank, especially if you don't have anything like this. I have it here as a tank with main fleet because it does what I want it to, and it synergizes well with something else. But now I'm just working on it still. But it's so. Again, we have to divide all of this. So this is an equation we're talking about. You don't have the best ships here, and don't use Mycenae because it kind of does both not very well. You have to divide that with what ships do you have, and that's what we have to acknowledge that. Yeah, in a perfect world, we have nothing but Anansis and nothing but, I don't know, fully loaded Pacificators and a Cana. Or really, truly, the beta tank is an Aquilius, which I put here because now we'll talk about that later in another video, but the current beta is evasion because of true damage. But for instance, if you would run with just these, what would be great? This is a better tank ship probably than my Mycenae, so why is it even there, right? So, but again, we have to work with what we got. So Mycenae is a good ship for either role if you don't have anything. But especially as free-to-play, I'm a free-to-play player, right? And I have these, and I have the opportunity to get these. So even as a free-to-play player, as you go down the line, don't invest in the Mycenae. Pre-Matrix, when everything was more in line, everything was kind of stretched out together where the numbers weren't. This just totally disrupted, because what's the point of having anything? We could just have one of these, or two of these, or three of these, and it's worth 3 fleets of your Mycenae, or your highest damage Athena. It's not even the same realm. When the gaps were closer, that is when Mycenae could have become a better ship, where having 3 Mycenaes on the front line versus having 3, I don't know, whatever other tank ship was there. It was better to have the Mycenaes because you would gain probably 50% more damage while having comparable tanking strength. Yeah, that made sense. Back then, in that context, pre-Matrix, maybe not even that correctly. But now you have a Nazi, there's no point. Damage is already taken care of. Don't bother with it. It's not worth it. It truly is mathematically and strategically a waste of your time. Therefore, again, if damage is relevant, left with this tank. And it only does tank 70% compared to 1 to 110% by an Aquilius, a Pacificator, a Cadet, or something else. Ares, and Tuvalu for crying out loud. There's no point for it. It doesn't deserve a place in either place. You got 9 ships. So I just want to clarify that I was wrong. Hopefully you guys understand. I hope this clarifies it because, and I want to say this honestly, I was on the other side. I was yelling at people like, I don't think you get it. You know, if you do both really well, that's a net positive. And that's true. But I didn't get the broader picture. And, you know, and to be fair, they did not really do a good job explaining that. I think no one has. That's why I'm making this video. So hopefully you guys can hear me. I hope that you guys learned something. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hopefully I'll be back to uploading normally. You guys have a good rest of the night, and take care.